Guess we'll start. So welcome to the crowdfunding portion of the digital entertainment world. We have today with us David Willis, who financed a feature film with for $1 million, and Jason Fishman, who is a marketing genius. His company, Digital Niche Agency, is well known for many, many successful crowdfunding offerings on the internet. I'm Gene Massey with MediaShares. We're a consulting firm that helps people put their whole thing together if they're doing an online offering. And so, David, I guess people would really like to start with you because you have actually gotten $1 million on the internet financing a movie. And a lot of people got movies out there that would love to get financed. So you want to tell us a little bit about how you did it and just kind of give us an overview to start with.
No. Yeah, I've been in show business all my life, and I wanted to make an independent film, and I was not having luck raising money the traditional way because the film business has changed. And Equity Crowdfunding came into existence in 2016, and I saw that some companies were doing it successfully, and anytime I pitched my movie, people liked it. So I thought, well, let me go online and I'll pitch it to the whole world. And with Equity Crowdfunding, you know, it's so different than Kickstarter. Kickstarter, you put money in to a movie, they give you a t-shirt or a DVD or a poster. With Equity Crowdfunding, you put money in, you own a piece of that movie. And to me, that just really felt right, because I've always been in show business, where as opposed to people donating to you to make something. For me, it's a business, and that's just more comfortable for me. So I thought, oh, I really want to do this. I studied for months, 100 campaigns, and saw what they did right, and saw what they did, in my opinion, wrong. And I carefully crafted our campaign, and the video, which is super important. I think Jason would agree, super important, that video in your campaign. And the video resonated with people who came to our campaign page. And in the first 2 days, we raised $20,000.
Wow.
Without any outreach. We had no social media, nothing, no stars promoting it, but just from the users online, it reached that. And we learned how to do outreach. We learned how to do a smaller version of what Jason does to find our audience, and we raised the money that way. It took about 6 months.
Okay, I'm going to get back to you with some details on that, but Jason, sure. You're a really great marketing expert for many years. What you want to talk a little bit about what's necessary if you want to do what David did?
Absolutely, absolutely. And David, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning about all the details, sharing from my experiences. You were able to check all the boxes in terms of research, in terms of planning, and that was reflected in execution. That's what we try to really preach when speaking to different groups. And I'll actually take this a step further back. When we began, it wasn't equity crowdfunding, it was reward-based crowdfunding, platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Donations. Unregulated donations.
Exactly.
No SEC rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where, essentially pre-sales in many cases, if it's a tech hardware, a consumer packaged good, for entertainment projects, you can have your name listed in the credits. We've done projects where you're having breakfast with a director in Paris, and there's all types of high-level rewards that can be purchased as well. But I go back to one of my first times at Indiegogo at their offices, and they said, it's all about looking at the campaign in thirds, with the first third being raised in the first 24 hours. And that's a result of a good pre-launch. This differs from equity crowdfunding a bit. I'll get back to that. But it really opened up my eyes, and I was researching for the next few weeks on what a pre-launch is, how Apple does it, how theatrical films do it, how different footwear brands are able to create a line around the block waiting for that first day a product is released. And it can be friends and family in some cases, anchor investors, lead investors, and equity crowdfunding. In others, it's a community that you've been developing and nurturing and getting excited about a specific initiative, a specific date. The second third, in case you're wondering for Indiegogo, they say to look at digital marketing to then amplify the responses you're getting. So like you were saying, hey, I'm getting these amazing notes. This feedback's great offline. How do I get more people online? First day of a pre-launch reward-based crowdfund goes well. How do you amplify that and get more people? Digital marketing, and can talk about channels a bit further in this discussion. The third and final piece being from the platform itself. And that's upside down from the way many issuers on equity crowdfunding portals or reward-based crowdfunding platforms assume that this occurs, where they think they're going to list an offering, and the majority of it, if not all, are going to come from site visitors. They're getting 18 million visitors a month, a few 100,000 visitors a month on some of the more niche equity crowdfunding portals. Why not? But without that social proof, it just doesn't occur.
Now, StartEngine's got 200,000 people in their database that they send out offerings to.
Correct.
But you can't
Upwards.
you can't get the money you need from just that group. So
Yes.
would you tell us a little bit about what you do? And by the way, we're mostly focusing here on equity crowdfunding, which means investments, which means SEC scrutiny of any money
Sure.
that's invested, a lot of rules and regulations. There's Regulation D, 506C, which is only accredited investors,
AKA rich people.
rich people. And then there's Regulation CF, which is a new regulation, relatively new, just a
Which
few
is
years.
what we used.
That's what David used, and you can get up to $1,070,000 from non-accredited investors, from anyone essentially. And then there's another tier that comes after that called Regulation A, which allows you to raise up to $50 million from non-accredited investors. It's basically a mini IPO.
Right, and it takes about $100,000 to $150,000 in accounting and legal fees to launch that particular regulation. Whereas Regulation Equity Crowdfunding, what we used, we started with less than $2,000 and built it into
Yeah.
$1 million. We
And
didn't-
not only that, but the portals will help you now cover some of the costs if you work with them.
Right.
But back to Jason. Jason, if I want to finance my movie today, now I may not have the knowledge that David has. I didn't study for a year to do this. So if I want to raise money for my movie on StartEngine or one of these portals, and I want to hire you, what do we do, and how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to what you were mentioning about StartEngine, some of these portals won't even feature your listing until you've hit different milestones. 20K, 45,000, 100K. And
why
that's
is
because
that? Why won't they put you up on there the first day with all zeros?
they know how their audience responds. And without that validation, without that social proof, if I go on there and say I'm going to cure cancer but I only have 3,000 raised, it raises a lot of question marks. Where if I have the same offering but 200,000 raised from 200 different investors, it says something different.
Yeah, but David got $20,000 right at the first 24 hours. How'd you do that?
Well, that's the StartEngine. We were on StartEngine, and they have 200,000 investors who just visit the site every once in a while, and they looked in movies. There's a new offering.
Would you say it was because your offering was so good? I've heard you speak about other videos and things on other sites that were not good, and that's why they didn't raise any money. So your offering must have been really good.
Yes, our video was very good. In show business, I'm a storyteller, so I was really good at communicating who we are and the movie that we're making.
And you
so
can
that,
talk about the Emmys that you've gotten, things like that, right?
Yeah, we had proof because my executive producer has 4 Emmys from The Simpsons and Frasier, so we have proof. So it's on Kickstarter, on platforms like Kickstarter, you're frequently putting money in so someone can learn how to do something, where this is investment. So we were showing, by the fact of our Emmys and the fact that we did a good video, we're showing we know how to do this. We're not going to school on your dime. We are making a product here that we're going to sell. And so if you're selling something like film, you better make a good video, okay? Because that's what your business is. That's like if you're selling a tech product and your tech product the sample that you're showing, the prototype, looks terrible, that does not engender confidence. So that's how we got it. We had what's called a high conversion rate, a word I did not know until I started doing this and hiring consultants. But like when I started, I didn't know enough to know what I didn't know. I wouldn't have known to hire somebody like Jason because I didn't realize what I needed. After I got into it a while, then I realized the value someone like this can bring, consultants like this, and they can accelerate you and jumpstart you and stuff like that. Because if you go it alone, you can do it alone, but oh gosh, you're not going to raise as much money, and it's just, we had a team.
You ended up spending, I think you said $60,000 on advertising.
Yes, and 15,000 of that was for Facebook ad consultants.
So they would tell you how to spend the money.
Yeah, they would get under the hood in the Facebook interface and see exactly how people were responding to very specific things in different ads that we were running. And when an ad was really firing on all cylinders and people were really responding to that ad, then we'd pour $10,000 into spending on that ad, so a lot of people would see it.
Testing first.
Yes, they do testing, which Jason I'm sure can speak minutely about. But it's a whole amazing world there. And it can take you from nothing. If you advertise right on Facebook, it can take you from the first 20,000 we raised to $1 million if you're willing to spend the money and you spend it correctly.
Yeah, but I don't have $60,000. What do I do? Tell us about how they have a rolling close. About how you take money as it comes in and then use some of that money for marketing. Tell us about that.
So we'll usually see, and this is a question we get asked often, how much do I need? In regards to marketing, we'll see groups start with 15 to 50K. As their traffic is performing, we're able to identify in the analytics the exact audiences, the specific creatives that are driving for them, and scale those. Furthermore, the portals will then offer disbursements, so the money being raised can be taken out and reinvested into marketing. So we're not asking.
I might keep half the money and put half of it back in marketing or something, right?
Perhaps. It's something that is common. There's a number that's flown around in equity crowdfunding of about 10%. That's an average, and that says if everything's working, if you're getting
if
a
you got a
1%
great
click-through
story
rate,
and a great product,
if you have a great story on your ads with a 1% click-through rate that is driving traffic to your offering page, the story on the offering page, the product, more importantly the company, and the projections are resonating, you get a 2% conversion rate, you could be looking at about a 10x return on ad spend, which is therefore 10% spent directly on ads.
So if I'm not as smart as David, who got his money, he got his $1 million for 60,000, or maybe a little more. But if I'm not as smart as David, then I'm probably going to spend. By the time I get $1 million, I will have spent 100,000.
If everything is dialed, yes. It's not black and white. We've seen everything from a 3x to a 31x in the past month. Yeah. So it ranges. Yeah. But when everything is in the right levels.
Right? And now, you mentioned that earlier that you do Facebook ads, and that's a good big component of how you market, right?
Absolutely, so, it's predictive.
Well, I got a girlfriend that does Facebook ads. I mean, can I hire her to do that? Why would I hire you when my girlfriend knows all about Facebook, she says?
Sure. I'm going to provide a great quote here. If there was a Ferrari sitting out front, I'm not going to be able to do the same things in it that a professional driver would be able to. The capabilities just would not be met.
Not without a wreck.
So not only do we bring our systems, our structures, where we're starting with 4 to 10 audiences, 2 to 6 creatives per audience. We're optimizing based off learnings that we found from hundreds of campaigns.
Now you got a database of investors too that you market to. Right?
Exactly. It's not only that, it's our first party data, kind of our secret sauce, if you will, where we've invested into audiences of investor pools that we've then watched participate in various deals. We've run over 100 of these campaigns,
so if I hire
over
you,
9 figures of funding. We know who's doing this.
Not going to just be throwing money at Facebook ads. I'm going to be really targeted. You know how to target better than my girlfriend, right?
Absolutely. And I shouldn't state that. I may meet your girlfriend. She may be upset about this statement at a later time. But
she can do better.
Okay, besides Facebook
we
ads,
get compared.
What else would you use? Do you do email and other means of marketing?
Yeah, and what I recommend, which are things that we offer, is starting with strategy. I have a system called the 8-point marketing plan we've built. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, as you could attest to, of course, and have been published on this system. Happy to share notes on it with anyone, as it's highly effective. Then I like to break my recommendations into 3. People can remember 3 things: content marketing, advertising, and direct outreach. Content marketing, you're building a funnel. Oftentimes this starts with a landing page, followed by an email drip system, a sequence of emails.
Video is content, right?
Video is, as David mentioned, the most engaging type of content, and by interest and trade, of course, as well, too. So video should be featured throughout. The emails can point at social posts, PR, influencers who are talking about you, articles, videos, and other types of published content that you're distributing out.
What about press agents? Should I hire a press agent, too?
We often get complaints about press agents and SEO companies that issuers, that companies launching on these portals have worked with and didn't do much. So I would say it's definitely something to look at, but you're going to want to evaluate it in depth. You're going to want to talk about deliverables to a precise level so you know what you're getting, but it can be a highly effective partner to have on your team.
And you probably need somebody that knows all the different press agents and knows who does what and who's really good at getting you on CNBC and stuff like that.
Well, I'd say relationships are the most valuable part of this. However, a good strategy with the numbers game behind it can be producing the results that you need. You're going to be able to add a lot of logos to your landing page, to your email content, and to various pieces you're putting out there. What I'd like to highlight about a content marketing funnel is the number 7. You need 7 touch points or more to see these conversions. It's not a matter of taking people to your offering page, watching them put in $1,500 on average, and you just bring enough people there. It's that repetition. It's the frequency where it really happens. We talk about advertising, retargeting, those ads that feel like they're following you around, is where it all happens. That's where you're going to see the best acquisition costs of each investor. That's where you're going to see the best conversion rate. Part of the game is building a large enough retargeting pool so that you have enough people to hit with those retargeting ads and therefore enough conversions coming from the ads that are driving through the most.
Retargeting is when you have looked at a website and the next day you get an ad for that site. So they got a little pixel or something that they get you, right? And then they know that you looked at that Ford yesterday, so here's a Ford, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And
I remember when my
Yeah.
consultant explained that to me. She said, you need to retarget people. And I'm like, well, what's that? And she goes, well, if they've looked at your ad or your web page and clicked on it, then it will show them your ad again. We can retarget them 3, 4, 5, 7 times. And I said, oh, I don't want to bother people.
No.
I mean, that's what I said to her. And
You
she
have to
said,
bother them.
and she said, look, David, have you ever been on Amazon and you were going to buy something and you were ready to buy it and you forgot and you got distracted and then a couple of days later it popped up again and you said, oh yeah, I wanted to buy that? I said, yes, actually I've done that. And she goes, that's what this is. And I go, okay. And that's how we got it. Once we started doing that, we started raising $10,000 a day because people already they're already interested. So.
And if you've taken Marketing 101, the first thing I tell you is spaced repetition to remind people of something because it generally takes you a while to convince somebody that they really would like something, even if they might like it already.
And think about it offline. I use an offline-online comparison. When you're speaking to an investor, if you have one meeting and hope they write a check, you're going to, be in a lot of meetings with very little results, if any. Having that systematic follow-up occurring with the ads, being able to showcase momentum and even milestones being hit goes a long way. Being able to reach a prospective investor once a day, twice a day, over the period of 30 days. What we see is many individuals participate at the last few days of the campaign on a 2-month, 3-month Reg CF. So how do we accelerate that process and how do we increase those numbers those last few days is a big part of what our strategies focus on and something I emphasize for everyone to look at. It can be difficult to think about if, okay, my campaign's doing all right, I'm hoping the last few days deliver, but definitely something to keep in mind is there are prospective investors on the sideline. What can you do? What type of content can you put out to push them to the conversion point?
Well, it sounds like this is this is just not really crowdfunding. This is like online marketing is really all it is. Is that true? Would you say that's true? It's just marketing game. I mean, can I crowdfund unless I'm marketing without marketing?
You won't raise much. Some people just throw up a campaign and they raise $40,000, $50,000 in 3 months. I mean, I've seen that.
Yeah.
But it's like if you don't have the passion to carry it through, to really push it, and to keep updating your campaign page and talking to your investors will sense that. They will sense that you're not that into it.
Sure. It definitely resonates, and the failure rate's huge. There's over a 90% failure rate. Working with the right consultants, working with the right agencies, the right experts who do a high volume of these campaigns, Gene, I know you're able to provide these type of insights to groups regularly, makes a huge difference, and those success rates jump up substantially. But it is a marketing activation. There is most definitely inherent marketing value that's perceived. Some would argue the marketing value can surpass the actual capital on many of these type of initiatives, where you have ambassadors moving forward in the form of an investor audience that are sharing with their friends and family, their personal networks, and it really goes a long way.
Yes, especially if the
Yes.
company's selling a product like beer or something like that. You get
yeah.
repeat customers over and over, so it's a marketing
Or pointing
thing.
out a film and telling,
Yeah, absolutely,
Well, it's
yes.
got to be cool, though. Whatever you're selling, whatever you're trying to raise money for, it's really got to be cool, doesn't it? You got to have a great video and look like, for example, there's a lot of people that tried to raise money. Back in the Kickstarter days, the people tried to raise money and failed miserably, most of people.
Well, across the years, since 2016, actually, last year, Kickstarter success rate was around 37%. And last year
But that was for raises below 10,000.
No, that was across the entire platform
Oh,
of
really?
Kickstarter. 37% equity crowdfunding across the platform, the success rate was 64%.
Wow.
So almost double the success
Why?
rate. And
Why?
the average
Tell 'em.
Kickstarter raise is around $24,000. Most of them are less than 10, but if you average them all at 24,000, the average raise for equity crowdfunding is over $270,000. So if you do a decent campaign and you
Sure.
share and you market, $270,000, that's a good chunk of change for any business. So that's the difference between Kickstarter at 24 and equity crowdfunding at $270,000.
Okay,
And I was looking at the full Reg CF cap, because I know they do set goals that are lower, but yes.
Now's a good time to tell them about your class.
After I did this, I was the first producer in the United States to successfully raise money for a feature film. And I was one of the few, we did this in 2017, first people to raise over $1 million. I got calls from other producers, and then I started getting calls from all kinds of company asking me how I did it, asking for advice, and I'm happy to share, but I just don't have the time, and there's no one big thing you can do to ensure the success of your campaign. There's not like one trick. There are a series of smaller steps.
Yes.
If you take them, that will increase your chances of success greatly and increase the amount you raise greatly. So it takes time to explain and walk through all these small steps. I knew nothing about this stuff before I started. I learned it as I went. I made some mistakes. I figured it out. So I'm putting out an online course with 6 hours of material, walking you through all these steps. The website is equitycrowdfundingmasterclass.com.
Okay, we got a question back here. I'll repeat the question for the mic.
For David, I'm curious about kind of the other side of the equation. How much budgeting and pre-production, were you engaged in while the campaign was going on, or did you hold off on doing anything until the money was raised?
Repeat the question for the
Okay, you're asking how much budgeting and pre-production we did for the movie while the campaign was going on? The only budgeting we did was before we raised money, we needed to know how much the movie would cost. And once we determined, it's a little bit circular. I looked at Equity Crowdfunding Platform, figured out how much we would likely raise. And that was around, I figured the minimum was around $700,000. So we wrote a script that could be done for that price well. So it didn't look like we were doing it on the cheap. It's only 2 locations, 2 houses right next door to each other. So we wrote the movie to fit the budget. And we had the line producer created a budget to make sure it was realistic. Then we didn't think about the movie anymore until we finished raising the money. Once we got to like $600,000, we started hiring people for a few months in the future, said that this month we're going to do it. But until we raised it all, we didn't get into that stuff.
And he did not know what his budget for the capital raise was going to be to start with. He only started with $2,000, right?
Oh, you mean the cost of the capital raise?
You did
Yeah.
not have a budget for your capital raise.
Right, you were asking about the budget for the movie, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, for the budget for the capital raise, we didn't know. And frankly, it took a bit of a leap because, as you said, you can take money out as you go. With StartEngine, you can, once you raise your minimum, and we set a minimum of $10,000, after that, you can take out money as you raise it. Unlike, let's say, Kickstarter, you have to wait to the end. So we took out the first $20,000. Then once we raised 80, we took that out, and we used that money to buy ads. And it took a little bit of a leap of faith because we thought, okay, we're spending $20,000 on ads. That's money that's not going into the movie. So we had to be confident and be sure. And we polled our investors and asked them why they invested, and we addressed those reasons in the new ads so we could attract people who think like that.
Sydney, got a Sydney question here from Sydney?
crowdfunding.
Thank you.
Flex here of the movie industry. And do you know how much the average of the investors, how much money they were putting?
Yes.
How much money, the question is, how much money did each investor on the average invest?
Before I hired my consultant and my Facebook people, we were averaging $440 per investor. Once I expanded my knowledge and got the team on board and started really working it well, our average investment was $1,140.
I would shoot for somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 per investor. I should mention we work with a group. They just completed a $7 million Reg A. They're on their next round right now, and they have a model where they have the first investment coming in, and then investor relation teams working with them, and their average investment size has hopped up about 5x. That is a matter of identifying the right accredited investors, watching them participate at substantially larger levels,
When you
but
say
it is
5X,
possible.
When you say 5X, you're
Essentially
talking about
$400 to
20
$2,000 as an average
20%
investment.
cost on the money? Is that what a 5X means?
No, 5X in the sense of 5 times the amount of their initial investment.
I see.
He gets them to, and we saw that where people would increase their investment. And you talked about how people would wait to the end. You would say, gee, I hope at the end they increase it. One of the questions we got, people ask questions on the campaign page. And boy, if you're doing this, answer them. We answered them within the hour. If somebody asks a question, you don't answer for a week, it's like, well, you obviously don't care about my money.
A week later, I forgot all about you. in a week.
Yeah,
We only got 5 minutes, so let me mention one thing.
Okay, anyway, they would say, why should I invest now? Why shouldn't I wait almost 3 months till your campaign is over? So in the meantime, my money is earning interest somewhere else. And my honest answer to them was, if we don't reach our goals, then we won't be able to make the movie. And we won't reach our goals unless we have momentum.
Correct.
And we won't have momentum unless people invest now. And their answer was always, oh, I get it, and they'd invest.
One more follow-up question.
Exactly.
I got to say something. I'm sorry, Sydney. Here's something that you need to be aware of, is that you're under very strict SEC regulations when you're marketing these offerings. You can't go out and say, you're going to make a ton of money and show pictures of cash and stuff like that. It's very strict. Not only that, but the investors are assured of SEC scrutiny. If you say something in your offering, you have to stick to it. And they'll very often say, when you file your documents, if you say, last year the Broadway shows made $2 billion. Really? Who says? And you have to quote who said that and things like that. So you're under very strict SEC scrutiny in all of this, and you have to abide by the rules. And that's a good reason to hire people that really know what they're doing. So the second thing is this. There's a company that Jason just worked with that got $5.5 million on a $200 million valuation, and they're pre-revenue. So you can get some extraordinary valuations sometimes, whereas if you went to a venture capitalist, you would not be able to get that kind of deal. They might, for $5 million, they might want half your company or something. So the advantage of crowdfunding, if you will, is that you get a better valuation, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only that, the investors that they brought in, they had over 4,000 investors on that deal.
You're talking about, right?
Wow.
And they invested an average of $1,200 a piece, I
About
think?
$1,282.
Wow. Yeah.
And we were paying, I think, $197 acquisition cost. We have a published case study around this.
In other words, it costs you $197 to acquire an investor.
From Facebook ads, and that stimulates social sharing, which brings in peer-to-peer marketing investors.
Okay.
It continues to work and work.
One-
They used Bill Nye the Science Guy in their videos.
One last,
Your movie, just for audience insight.
the name of your movie.
Oh, the name of our movie, we
And
made
where
a
they can
Chris-
see, where they can see it.
we did a Christmas movie called I'll Be Next Door for Christmas. It's a family comedy, and it's on Amazon, iTunes. That's the easiest place to
So-
find it. It got great reviews. It's a
One-
fun movie.
One last question here. I don't have any money, and I want to crowdfund something, and I want to get some money for my idea or my business, or how do I do that if I don't have any money? Is there any way to do that?
Well, I only started with $2,000 because I wanted to bootstrap it. I wanted to make sure, that was my way. You need at least that much, there are some small legal fees and filing fees up front, so you'll need some money to do that. We spent about $1,200 on the video and $800 on, you have to pay for someone to do a background check on you. SEC doesn't want shady people. They don't want Bertie Madoff Jr., raising money here. They will do a background check on you. So there are some fees you can acquire. But the main thing, I just want to emphasize the great thing about Equity Crowdfunding. You mentioned that people get involved in social sharing. When we premiered our film, there were 200 investors at the premiere.
Wow.
That was one of the perks we gave. If you invested $1,000, you got to come to the premiere. And after the premiere, many of them came up to me, shook my hand. These are people I've never met. We had only like 6 friends and family ever invest in the whole movie. These were all strangers. But people came up to me after the film, shook my hand, and thanked me for letting them invest. And I get goosebumps when I think about it. But when people invest, not just because it's a movie, but in any kind of company, they're excited to be a part of it.
They want to be part of it,
You
yeah.
develop a relationship with these people, and you're really doing something together.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling, and you really move forward no matter what you're doing with your company. It's very exciting because
Tell them how they get a hold
Yeah.
of you, and then you
Well,
tell them how
but
to
just
get
to
a
answer
hold
your
of
question a bit further, if you're not asking your friends and family and your personal network for your project, if you're holding them back from that moment that you shared with
Yeah,
those
see, but
audiences,
they-
it says something about your project.
you. Yeah, but they know
Like,
David. They're
no. I find people that are afraid, and
I see what you're saying.
Because
Yeah.
if I'm looking to invest in a project and there's no one backing them, if I look at an offering page and there's $6,000 raised, it's the empty restaurant sensation. I'm asking, this guy's got no one in his life that wants to put a few $1,000s in, and build your network. Your personal network is your net worth. So go to events like this, talk to every single person here, let them know what you're doing, be enrolling, and you'll see that initial fund come in.
Tell 'em your
Use
name.
that seed capital and amplify on a platform like this.
Tell them your name and website before Paul kicks us out of here.
Sure. I'm Jason Fishman, SVP of Digital Strategy for DNA. That's digitalnicheagency.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm approachable. I love talking marketing. Feel free to reach out.
I'm David Willis. My website is equitycrowdfundingmasterclass.com. You can sign up for our free newsletter there. You can also email me through that site.
I'm Gene Massey. MediaShares.com is my website. We're consultants and help people do their crowdfunded offerings. Thank you so much for coming today.
Well, thank you.